For those among you who like to get up close and personal with enemies in your games, there are a ton of great titles that let you approach the action on your own terms. It's quite thrilling to just dive into the fray with nothing but your skills and weapons in tow. We've put together a list of games that come with fantastic melee systems built to test your reflexes and ability to think on your feet as you take on either hordes of enemies or go head-to-head with deadly enemies who are just as skilled as you are. It's time to dive in. 1. Lies of P. Neoiz's take on the story of Pinocchio is nothing short of a masterpiece when it comes to how its combat systems convey a sense of danger while also making you feel powerful enough to actually take them down. Although the action isn't as fast-paced as some of the other titles on this list, the game necessitates a methodical approach to its madness. That's not to say that things don't heat up with a few bosses that up the ante with unrelenting vicious combos that can push you to the limits of your skill. However, a wide selection of weapons, skills, and the ability to mix and match between various weapons and handles can be a great way to get the upper hand. Finding a combination of weapons and skills that works for you is a feeling that other titles can find hard to replicate. And that's not to mention Legion arms, each of which adds a new wrinkle to your playstyle. Give this one a try for its story and intense gameplay. 2. The first Berserker Kazan. Neopal's take on the Dungeon and Fighter series blends a unique visual style with a combat loop that quickly becomes quite addictive despite a learning curve that can dissuade even the most determined of players. Despite a limited selection of weapons, the game's emphasis on raw aggression makes each fight a flurry of dodges, blocks, parries, and attacks that can quickly let you garner enough spirit points to unleash your most devastating skills. While the Blade Phantom brings another layer of strategy to the table, allowing Kazan to harness the power of fallen warriors with some interesting effects. This is a game that can test your patience, but reels you in with its revenge-based story and well-designed encounters aside from bringing a lot of replay value thanks to multiple endings for you to uncover. 3. Tyia. If we were to complain about anything in Tyia, its relatively short length is the only thing that comes to mind. Like Kazan, it's a title that rewards aggression, with Corvus preferring to keep the pressure on his opponents at every instance. The ability to use your enemy's own weapons against them while channeling your innate abilities to unleash some very cool moves come together to present a combat experience that can be a challenge to master, but is very rewarding to pull off. When it's played right, Tyia is an absolute treat for players looking for a combat experience that lets them take on increasingly deadly threats with brutal efficiency and flashy style. 4. Sefue. This beat-em-up action game from developer Slowclap is arguably the best martial arts title to be released in recent times. Aside from bringing the best of Kung Fu to every attack animation and enemies that ensure that those moves are put to good use, Sefue comes with a unique twist on resurrection after you're taken down at battle. This mechanic sees your character's age go up every time they respawn, improving their attack power while lowering their defenses. This could mean that even death becomes a strategic component, allowing you to take on increasingly difficult foes at the cost of a lower health bar. It's the perfect way to encourage players to constantly improve their skills while strategically using the game's mechanics to give themselves a much-needed boost when things get out of hand. Its story may not be as interesting as Lies of P, but it's nothing to scoff at either, making this a title that's definitely worth your time. 5. Wolong Fallen Dynasty. Wolong is a refined take on the excellent combat mechanics that the studio established with its Neo franchise. An obscure narrative and fairly linear world make this a game in which combat quickly becomes the star of the show. Parrying flurries of attacks from enemies while building up your spirit gauge to cause some devastation of your own makes each fight a desperate battle for control, with even lowly grunts capable of taking you out with just a few hits. With each level in the game coming with a morale system that requires you to defeat enemies in order to be capable to take on mini-bosses and bosses later down the line, Wolong's combat systems are a tug-of-war with your enemies as capable of summarily sending you back to the nearest save point as you are capable of sending them on their way to the next life. 6. Ghost of Tsushima Director's Cut. The complete Ghost of Tsushima experience brings a poignant and riveting story, a beautifully crafted open world, and a sublime combat system that has a lot of depth to its mechanics. As a samurai forced to find new ways to take the fight to an invading Mongol army, Jin Sakai's fight to defend his home sees him pull off some very flashy moves, assisted by your precision and sense of timing in every fight. Leaping off your horse to challenge Mongol patrols to a standoff still feels as thrilling as it did 5 years ago, while flowing from stance to stance as we wield the Sakai clan's katana and tanto against vicious enemies is an absolute treat for players who like to fight with style and flair. Just be ready to have your heartstrings tugged on as you go further into this epic adventure. 7. Ghost Runner 2. For fans of first-person action, Ghost Runner 2 is quite easy to recommend, considering how its challenge lies in using Jack's abilities with full awareness of what's happening around him in any given situation. While his trusty sword is indeed a reliable killing tool, using it in tandem with all the other cool weapons he unlocks is paramount to victory. His impressive parkour skills are as valuable to the game's combat loop as the electrified shurikens that eventually become an invaluable part of how we approach every encounter we had in the game. The cyber ninjas of Dharma Tower can be very deadly enemies, but for those of you who use every tool in your arsenal, they can quickly melt away in the face of your onslaught. HiFi Rush. After a surprise launch in 2023 for Xbox Series X and S and PC, Tango Gameworks' HiFi Rush released on PlayStation 5 last year. HiFi Rush follows Chai, who signs up for Vandelay Technologies' Project Armstrong for limb replacement. Things quickly go from bad to worse as he flees from pursuing security forces with a new robot arm. Joining up with the mysterious but fiery Peppermint, Chai embarks on a quest to unearth Vandelay's shady project Spectra and fulfill his dreams of becoming a rock star. HiFi Rush's main claim to fame is the rhythmic melee combat. Attacks, enemy patterns, and movement are all according to the beat. But if players time their moves right, they can deal more damage. 9. Shadow Labyrinth. Bandai Namco's dark and gritty reimagining of Pac-Man brings a combat loop that is a far cry from the character's earliest appearances. Swordsman number 8 might come with a limited set of skills and a distinct lack of options to heal himself while fending off enemies, but those limitations only serve to encourage a more strategic approach to the task at hand. With exquisitely designed bosses and levels that are full of danger, this is an adventure that blends brains and brawn into a very attractive package that can keep you occupied for hours on end. 10. Ninja Gaiden 2 Black. If disabling your enemies in combat is more your style, Ryo's adventures in the Unreal Engine 5 remake of Ninja Gaiden 2 is going to be quite a treat. However, your enemies could decide to cause as much damage as they can before their inevitable death, making the game's combat an experience in which you are in danger of dying just as much as your opponents are. With an emphasis on completing encounters while sustaining as little damage as possible, this game is one in which you need to be on your toes at any point in a fight, and come out all the more powerful for it. However, using Ryu's ultimate techniques and a host of other useful additions can ensure that you come out on top while managing to minimize the damage he takes while tearing through enemy ranks. Bonus: Bloodborne. This list of titles with great melee combat experiences feels incomplete without mentioning Bloodborne, the From Software masterpiece that shook up the studio's combat formula back in 2015. Yes, it was originally a PS4 title and runs only via backwards compatibility on PS5s at 30 FPS. However, for those of you who can overlook that factor, its brutal combat and a selection of extremely cool weapons can quickly make you find yourself coming back for another bout against deadly bosses and enemies who can push you to the limit of your patience and skill. It continues to be a unique and distinct take on the From Software formula, requiring lightning-quick reflexes and a very aggressive approach to take down its many threats. Approach this one with caution, and you're sure to find many reasons to spend another hour in the streets of Yharnam. And that's a wrap on our favorite melee games that you could play on the PS5. Did we miss one? Nioh? Sekiro? Let us know in the comments below, and we hope that you enjoy playing them just as much as we did. Hey, did you know that we at GamingBolt upload new videos every day? Stick around, drop a like, subscribe, and hit that bell. And let us know what kind of content you'd like to see in the future with a comment below.